questions about this amazing, very rich talk?
I'd like to ask to Jean if he can give us an advice to grow in faith as Our Lady.
As I said, the first thing is to become aware of her importance, her radical importance. One can use different means. For instance, the teaching I just gave exists also in a more developed form in the School of Mary. But also, of course, as I mentioned earlier on, one can read Grignon de Montfort book and try to go deep in the teaching of the group, of the book, sorry. Some people do mention the consecration to Our Lady. Some people mention, of course, the Rosary. These are means, but I think the deepest point, as far as I can understand, is to understand that a deep switching has to occur between my way of doing things, my way of understanding things, my way of following Jesus, my way of loving Jesus, my way of attending Mass, etc., 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 to her way. It could seem very new for some of you, and I understand that, don't worry. But I think it's important to work on that, to understand that her eyes and her heart are given to you, and that on a daily basis, 24 hours, you are using your eyes and your heart. So that's extremely challenging to discover suddenly that even with your best intentions, even with whatever you've done in your life, that's fine. God is not here to judge us, but God is here to give us a higher gift, a deeper gift, a most beautiful gift, which is to love him the way she loved him. Now there are moments, different moments in our spiritual life where we become more aware of her. That's understood. I won't go into details, but it is true that when God is realizing deeper purifications in our life, it is true that there is a moment where we feel exactly what the apostles felt, which is going through the passion and discovering our utter nothingness and our utter incapacity to follow Jesus. But this is an advanced stage, it's not an early stage. And that stage then is the opportunity, of course, to have recourse to Our Lady in a more radical way, because now you become aware that you need her faith. You're almost like asking her to believe for you and to love for you, because you discover that you can't do it by yourself. So whenever, if it happens in an advanced stage of our spiritual life, and again, I'm not talking early stages, I'm talking advanced stages. You know, the proof, you have it in front of you. Compare the years before 70. You have Matthew, Mark, St. Paul, and the author of the letter to the Hebrews. That's a lot. That's amazing. That's almost everything you would think, no? And imagine that after that we still have something after. So it is a matter of growth, the discovery of Our Lady. It's not necessarily always from the beginning, even though it would be good to have her in the beginning, but it's something very similar, I would say, to the experience of the apostles in the Passion, which means discovering that they failed. Look, they all failed. From the 12 of them failed gloriously. And that was expected, of course, because the old skins will break. You need a new skin anyway, and it is indicated in the gospel. So this twofold aspect of our faith, I think, is very important to grow in front of us in our eyes. That yes, you want to go directly to Jesus, and you are using your own means, your own bicycle to fly, and you can't fly. just humbly understand that you are already using an intermediate, a mediator. You are the mediator of yourself because you are using your own faith, your own, the old man, no, or the old creature in us, no. So what is the old man? It's the man who in us, or the mechanism, better said, in us, that it searches for consolations, for leaning on something palpable, or on all sorts of things that come from outside, while the new man in us is Mary's faith and hope and love that direct us to the center of our being, God who is deeper inside of us. So switching is important. So I would say first and foremost, that's that. I don't want to fall immediately into like, okay, do this and it will work. I think it's first and foremost a deeper understanding of our faith. Like, for instance, I started to mention it a little bit. I said, look, in our faith, you don't have only the seed. And we live from almost 2,000 years as if we only had the seed. And we forgot that we are the subject of faith. We are the soil. And we never question ourselves. Are we really following Jesus properly? It's like the gospel is only talking about the seed. No, I'm so sorry. The gospel talks about both equally, 50-50. 50% of the gospel talks about God, the Trinity, Jesus, salvation, the cross, you name it. And the other part, which is the immersed part of the iceberg of the gospel, talks about the good soil or the old soil, the other soils. They're not so bad when you look at the parable of the sower. The third soil is not that horrible, no? The person did well, no? You would think. Did well. Some weeds came up, but you know, the plant was there. But the parable is saying that the criterium, is, are you bearing fruits, yes or no? And we forget that completely. It's like, yeah, okay, fine. If we check humbly our heart, our conscience, we find that our heart is a mix of the first three soils. The one who is completely closed, the seed cannot enter, lack of faith. The second one is a little bit of faith, joy, but then after a superficial reaction, forget about it. The third one is a bit better, but still no fruit. And the good soil, the liturgy, the Maronite liturgy names Mary the good soil. The Saint John Damascene names Mary the good soil. So I'm not inventing it, it's there. So, which means there is a reading, a Marian reading of the parables. The parables are a shift in language. And if we don't shift our language, we are still at till chapter 12. We, all of us, are standing at the level of chapter 12 in St. Matthew. We never shifted to chapter 13. It's a way, of course, of talking. Don't get too depressed. No. So what I'm trying to say is that let us wake up to the whole gospel, not only a part of the gospel. So if you are not, I'm not talking, of course, to you. I'm talking to me, to everybody. You know, if you focus a lot on the dearest things in your life, give them only 50%, and then ask yourself, what about me, who is doing all this? Am I really doing them the right way? You know, before you go to confession, I know that the priest will not understand anything if you say this to him, but if you go to confession and before going to confession, you check your conscience, you say, yeah, I did many things. I did very good things, because, you know, examination of conscience is, you have everything. You have the good and the less good things. But if you check and you suddenly realize that, yes, I did beautiful things, but I did them my way. Well, is this what God asked me to do? So you see? So I'm talking deep spiritual life. I'm not talking beginners. But it grows little by little, you know. I read Montfort from the beginning of my second conversion, no? From the day I discovered, I was always Catholic, and then suddenly one day, not suddenly, of course, it took a few weeks or a few months, I started to realize that, yeah, Jesus is here. So the God who created the world is here, wants to walk with me, and he's calling me, etc. I'm talking, you weren't born, huh? It's many years ago. So yes, no, you can be sure you weren't born. So I'm old, even though I look young. I'm not young. So what I'm saying is that I got Montfort very early. A few months after, I was reading Montfort. So there's nothing wrong. But what did I understand from Montfort at 83? And what did I understand of Montfort in 1990? What I understood from Montfort 90, I don't know now, 96 says, and then after, and then after, and then after, and now. I have to say that it's like the sun in the beginning of the day. You don't see the sun yet. It's still dark, and then it starts to, it sort of rises gently, but then suddenly, I don't know when it will be 12 o'clock, like having the full sun on my head, but the understanding is different. So I think it's possible to challenge ourselves by a man like Montfort or John Paul II, for instance. You know, John Paul II, I was young when we had John Paul II, no? I was in the 80s, no? So some people said, oh, he's Polish, poor him. He's very pious, he's very devoted to Our Lady, and we can explain that, you know, the French, I'm French, so the French would say that, no, he's Polish, so this is because he's Polish. No, it's not because he's Polish. It's because he understood something that you don't understand. And he talked about Our Lady, but I think that the majority were deaf. They said, oh no, he's very devoted to Our Lady, leave him in peace. No, no. It's not about just being devoted to Our Lady. Read what he says. It's radical, it's deep. We owe him amazing statements in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. There are amazing statements on Our Lady in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. I don't know if you are aware of them. So what can we do? I'm sorry to say, it's a bit frustrating. The need first is to change the way we understand the gospel. That, I would say, is the answer, the first. Because if I say to you, okay, say the rosary every day, so you'll spend 20, 25 minutes every day saying the rosary. You will know it implicitly, but you are young. You need to understand. You're not an old lady, 90 years old, and I'm coming and explaining to her St. Luke. No, you still have all your life ahead. So you need to enter in the gospel with new eyes and discover that the gospel has 50-50. One side is the visible side, and the other side is the old skin, the old man, the three other soils. And this starts from chapter 13 in St. Matthew onwards. So it is very dangerous. Jesus is very worried about what will happen to the seed. This is why he changes completely his teaching. Because he can present the new teaching, which is the Sermon on the Mount, the 3 chapters, 5, 6, and 7 in St. Matthew. He can talk forever about them. But if we do not change, how can we receive his teaching? There are people you might cross in your life and said, oh, I read the gospel, I didn't understand anything. No, people who are not Christian, no? So I didn't understand anything. How on earth can you read the gospel and not understand anything? I mean, it's so clear. How can't you understand the language of Jesus? No, I can't. So, you see, so I'm sorry to disappoint you, not to give you something easy, like say the rosary and you'll be fine. Don't worry. You will be saved. Of course you will be saved, but the point is not to be saved. The point is to reach the fullness of Mary. It's not to be saved. That's old-fashioned system. You need to reach the fullness of love, the fullness of knowing Jesus and loving him as Mary did, not less. If you accept less, I'm not responsible. I wash my hands today. You need to reach the maximum, and the maximum is given to you. God doesn't give half measures. He didn't die half measure. He didn't say, okay, I will die for you, say 20%. And for you, because I see all your pictures there, no. So I will die for you, like say 35. Oh, but you? No, 90%. No. So I gave everything. If I can give more, I will give more. But I can't, I give everything. But the problem is not to give everything. The problem is, can we receive everything? Do we know the way to receive everything? And that's the key. And this is why Mary is there. And she's not optional. And we still, as Catholic, have in some corner of our mind that Mary is optional. Trust me, I studied theology, no? I had my friends when I was studying theology in the late 80s are now all priests. Did we understand all this? Did we receive all this? No, it's very challenging. The course on Our Lady, the Mariology, is a very challenging course. I gave it many years after, when I had my master degree and I could teach, etc. I taught many years after in the seminary the course on Mariology. It's very challenging. Why? because we don't understand. Why? I don't know. You need a lot of hard work, but please open the gospel in a new way and see Mary present in every page. Can you do that? For me, if you do that, I will feel that, yes, because if you understand that Mary believed for you, how can you sleep the same way today? It's impossible. Mary believed for you. It's like, put it well in your mind. You cannot believe, full stop. Of course, it's very difficult, very harsh, because you need to reach the level of the apostles, which is the passion. You are not yet at the passion. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you passed it. I don't know. Bless you if you are. But if you are still before the passion, it's very harsh. It's like Peter. It's like, what are you saying? Peter said, I will follow you. I will die for you. You understand here, the two being in you who are talking. We are a pregnant woman pregnant with twins, but one is smaller than the other. We have the new man in us is a little twin, the little twin, and the old man in us is quite big, but we're not aware. We are completely oblivious of that reality. The gospel for us, which is the 50% is 100%, and us are 0%. So we behave as if there is no talk on the good soil or the other soils. We behave as if there is no question at all about the old skin or the new skin. We just reduced all that discourse into, am I in state of sin or not? And if you are in state of sin, you go and receive confession, and then you can receive communion after. So we are in a binary, strange way, but there is no development. So can you really enter in Mary if you are just, am I in a state of sin or not? Of course, I want you to be in a state of grace, and I would like also to be in a state of grace always, by the grace of God. But it's way more than that. What is your aim? Your aim is Mary's capacity to embrace Jesus. If you aim for less, where is the parable of the sower? So my answer to you is, take the parable of the sower, and when you read it, remove the good soil and put instead Mary. And then ask yourself, what am I supposed to do now? Can I still stay and be a mix between the first, second, and third? Because if you look honestly in your heart, I don't know. I talk about myself. Maybe you're already a saint, and I don't know it, bless you. But I'm not. So I look at the first three soils, and I find that my heart is a mix of the three. A little bit of the first soil, a little bit of the second, a little bit of the third. And I have a great desire to be like the fourth. No? Don't forget this bit. I have a great desire to be the fourth, but I feel that it doesn't really work, you see? So that's the thing. So if you look at it and do a good examination of conscience, you discover Mary. You discover that there are no solutions. I'm not bearing fruits. I think maybe that I'm bearing fruits like Peter, no? I will die for you. I will die for you. Peter, calm down. That's not the way. I will die for you. No, don't go. You will not die. Never, never in a million years. Peter is good. He's a good man. He's a good man. But it's not enough to be a good man. You see, that's the point. So sorry, I'm a bit too chatty.
Thank you.
Sorry to disappoint you. It's an obsession. Mary should become an obsession in a good sense, in the good meaning of the word. It's like, it's impossible to be without her, because she becomes your being. She's part of your being and needs to grow. Your prayer is, God, please allow Mary, who is the seed that I received in baptism, the faith, no? What do you want? He's asking, the priest asking the godparents, what do you want? He said, I want faith. What is faith? It's Mary's faith. It's a little seed, the capacity to believe. So you received her in you. She's in you. Even if you are Protestant, it's your problem. But you have her in you. You're not aware, but she is in you. You like it or not. By baptism, we have Our Lady. She's the capacity to believe. We say it in the Council of Trent, you know. We receive in baptism faith, the virtues, the theological virtues. It is in the Catechism. But it needs to be clarified and made more precise, like Swiss precision, like St. Luke. What is Swiss precision? It's Mary's faith, not faith. virtues, the theological virtues. No, it's Mary's virtue. It's Mary's faith that becomes my faith. It's as it is, it enters in me, like the nutrients from the mother's blood goes to the child. It's not any nutrients, it's her nutrients, her DNA, her form, her understanding. I mean, her womb. You see, St. Augustine has this beautiful word. No, he says, all the elect, all people who are called by Jesus are enclosed in her womb. All of us, we are in her. So of course you need to see her in a different way, otherwise it's like there's no space for everybody. You see what I'm trying to say? And find yourself in the resurrection. You are in her, and go back and with Peter and remember that she believed for you. So you were already in her, and you witnessed the resurrection as she witnessed it. Can you believe that you have that? Do you believe that you can access the moment of the resurrection, not an apparition? What's the point of seeing an apparition? We want the resurrection. We don't want an apparition. Apparition comes after. We want the moment of resurrection. And she was there. He came to her immediately. He appeared to her, or he became present to her. Why? But she sort of almost like grabbed him out of the soil, of the earth, of the dead, with her faith. Of course, it's the power of God in her. It's the power of God in himself. But you see, and he comes, he wakes up for her. He rises for her. But the beauty is that you are in her at that moment. Why? Because she, by the grace of God, by the action of the Holy Spirit in her, was carrying you, because she knew that you won't be able to believe and that you need to come back to her. You see, that's the thing, coming back to her. I can talk for hours.
Is there any other question? This is so interesting.
They will hesitate now to ask a question because
they know it's Harfana. Does anyone have a question?
I'm scared now.
I find this really, really interesting what you're Francis, you go.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was amazing. I wasn't expecting that. Just a quick question. So the subject and the object, I kind of missed that slide when you was writing on the board. So if you can just sort of briefly explain that.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
Absolutely. I can show you even the drawing, because it's better. The drawing stays better in the mind. You are supposed to have now the drawing.
Yeah.
Now, in our faith has two aspects. We focus only on one, which is the object of our faith, the contents of our faith, like say the creed, I believe in.
Yeah.
But we gave way less importance. It's starting now with the actual catechism, but before we didn't have that. We give less importance to the act of faith, which is I believe. And this I believe is 50% of the deal. It's not just 0% as we seem to act. We give a total importance to the contents of our faith, but we forget that we have to pay attention to how do we believe, the way we believe. I'm not questioning the contents of our faith. My faith is what the church believes in. 2000 years, the popes, the magisterium, everything. I believe in all that, but that's the object. But the question is the subject. How do I believe? This is why Jesus starts to explain that from the parables, because the parable of the sower explains this two poles of our faith. There is a seed, which is the object, and there is a soil. And surprisingly, he stops almost completely giving importance in the parable to the seed, and he focuses totally 100% from chapter 13 on what? On the soil, because he already gave the seed. The seed is, say, for instance, the Sermon on the Mount, no? Chapter 5, 6, and 7 of Matthew is the Sermon on the Mount. So that's the most beautiful thing you can offer to any human being. But then he worries. He says, okay, of course, this is me talking. He didn't tell me that he worried. So I'm trying to say that that's not enough. We need to pay attention to how we believe. And in us, as I said right now, in us, we have a mix. We have like two twins. We have the old man in us and we have the new man in us. And the journey of the gospel is also a description of the old man in us and what is happening to him, and the new man, of course, because if you talk about one, you talk about the other. So for instance, starting from chapter 16 in St. Matthew, when we have the profession of faith of Peter, immediately after, Jesus starts the descent of the old man, because the old man has to die. So Jesus starts this descent by announcing his passion. The reaction of Peter, which is our reaction also, Peter represents us in a way. He says, no, never, you will not die. So something in me doesn't want to lose the old way of approaching Jesus. I'm very happy to stay as I am. I want to be cuddled. I want to have the same approach. I want to, which is the old man talking now, you know. I want the consolations. I want to be sure that everything is fine, etc. This is the old man talking, while the new man, the muscles of the new man, the muscles of Mary in me is, for instance, the theological virtues, faith, hope, and love. So as you see, we are dealing with two types of behavior, the old man and the new man, which is the soil. There you have also the new skin and the old skin, the new wine, but then you have the old skin and all the new skin. So we don't pay enough attention to the other side of the story, which is the subject of faith. How do I believe? And here Mary comes, especially in the parable of the sower, where the good soil has been understood by various, you know, I say tradition, but it's various authors or liturgies as being Mary herself. So it opens suddenly a new world in front of our eyes. Suddenly the gospel starts to talk about Our Lady, while before the gospel was like, as I drew here, just the object, the sun. We forget that in front of the sun, in order to sort of, let me draw another one here, we have the object of our spiritual life, of our Christian life, is Jesus. No, Jesus is everything. Jesus is God, Jesus is man, Jesus is our savior, Jesus is our everything, as Saint Francis calls him, Saint Francis calls him. Now, we forget that in order to access Jesus, we need the perfect soil, the good soil, or the perfect skin, the new skin, etc., which is the perfect subject. Here in the drawing is the sun and the moon, but there's no other hidden meanings. It's just I'm trying to explain something. So you have here, what does it mean, the subject? It means eyes, essentially, which leads to faith. And then you have here the heart, to the love, the heart. The capacity to love. And of course you have hope. So there is a way to love Jesus, but very high above. So draw a line here. Say that this is Mary, the perfect subject. But the good news is that the perfect subject is given to us, belong to you. Jesus is giving you two things in baptism. He's giving you himself, which is the Son, and he's giving you the capacity to know him and to love him. He doesn't leave you alone with himself. No, he says, you cannot touch me. You cannot embrace me. You cannot embrace in the sense of contain. You cannot contain me. It's impossible. I'm giving you two things. I'm giving you the capacity also to receive me. So that's the parable of the sower drawn here. Now, what do you have? You have the other soils. So the moon is the soil, in fact. And you have the third soil in the parable of the sower, Matthew 13, Mark 4. And then you have the second soil, and then the first soil. Can I reach and embrace Jesus? That's the question. By my own means, allegedly directly. It's not directly. I'm using the old man in me. That's the thing. Whoever tells you, Mary, I don't want Mary between me and Jesus. I want to go directly to Jesus. Oh, answer him. Do you think you're going alone by yourself to Jesus directly? No. You have a big old man between you and Jesus, and this is part of you. So can this soil bear fruits, reach Jesus, embrace Jesus? The answer of the parable of the sower in Matthew 13 and Mark 4 says that none of the first soils bore fruit, which means that this black line here is a divide between the old man, who can be a mix between first, second, and third. Contemplate and analyze Peter's behavior. It's first, second, and third. And the only one, the new Eve, and the mother of the elect, the mother of the faith, people who can believe. It might not appear immediately, it will take time, but eventually, especially during the Passion and after the Passion, I think that Mary is mandatory, absolutely vital. Why? Because you go back to her, you discover that you utterly failed, so either you despair and throw yourself from the window, or as already an advanced Christian, or you understand that Mary is inevitable, and that Mary is not an optional thing, and that you need her faith. So you say, Mary, believe for me. Mary, love for me. I'm in the darkness. I don't know what to do, you see? But I know that you have access to Jesus. I know that you have the fullness of this access of eyes and heart, which is what I drew high up here, the sun and the moon. This is perfect. This is another world, you see? So Mary is not a mediation. I need her eyes and her heart. I mean, I'm seated in her, or she's seated in me. So it's not a mediator in the sense of like, in order to talk to Jesus, I need to talk to her. No, that's the old world. Let us talk about the new world. What is the new world? She grows in me because I received this. You see where I'm pointing here? These eyes, this heart, this seed. This is half of the seed I received in baptism. Mary needs to grow in me. It's not any faith, it's her faith. It's not the faith of the church. It's Mary's faith that becomes the faith of the church, you see? So this is the thing. So to summarize, faith is twofold. I wouldn't say bipolar because the people will misuse the expression, but I would have loved if bipolar didn't exist to say that our faith is bipolar in the sense that it has two poles. One pole, which is the essential one, Jesus, the object of our faith, our love, our everything, our savior, but also the flesh of his flesh and bone of his bones, Mary. This is why she's called woman, because she's part of him. She was taken from him, from one of his ribs, and built as the woman, and there is no other woman. And we are all called to allow her to grow in us, but this depends also on us. So.
Thank you for that.
You're most welcome.
Any other brave one? You have a question, Francis?
No, I think I'll leave for tonight. I want you to invite him back.
Francis is a great, you love Our Lady.
I know we talked last time toward the end. I
was actually really, I think it's probably Our Lady actually when I heard that you was going to give this talk, because I invited another priest to give a talk at the start of the month, and with the whole virus thing that didn't plan out. So the fact that you covered this and the topic that you covered, actually, it could not have gone better, because I had something sort of similar in mind as an introduction to Our Lady, but I think yours was probably even better actually, because and I actually love the fact that you know, this idea that people see Our Lady as an impediment to going to Christ. That's been a huge sort of, as if her and Christ are in contradictory to one another, which is still, although to be honest, I see the point. It's like an old skin. It's like you don't want anything to subtract from Christ, so sort of thing, to take anything away from his shine. And it's like a human nature thing, almost, you know. It's so I was really happy that you touched on that today, actually, in your talk, because I think that's a huge thing as well. And I think that's one of the things that plays a huge, probably acts as a block from people to actually getting to know Our Lady, let alone to trying to understand her more. So yeah.
And especially, thank you very much for your kind words. And especially when you discover that it's there in the gospel, like for instance, the way I explained it today in St. Luke, how it develops, the difference between the teaching of St. Luke and the others, showing that it's there in the gospel. I think it changes everything. I would almost say I can't sleep from years because of that problem. That she's there in the gospel, and we need to see her. We need to. It changes everything. And imagine, I'm just talking about St. Luke, and I'm just talking about the door, the entrance door of the Gospel of St. Luke. Maybe I talked also about the resurrection, but the entrance door. I haven't talked about the rest of the gospel. I haven't talked about the Gospel of St. John. So imagine the richness ahead of the. Imagine this as a starting point, and imagine the richness that is waiting from the Bible. That's what I'm trying to say. Imagine, because before, our tendency is to say, okay, look, this saint said that, this other saint said that, this pope said this pope said that, etc. So we try to sort of have recourse to the tradition rather than anything else. But when we discover that it is 50-50 in the gospel itself, it changes everything. For me, as I said, I can't sleep from years. It's like, how can we continue when it's so clearly, well, of course, clearly it's relative, clearly in the gospel. So I think that strengthens the case immensely about Our Lady, and it offers us even, I would say, a biblical approach to Mary. What is faith, etc. Which, by the way, also John Paul II did a lot. He focused a lot on Mary's faith. Thank you. You can look at many videos. Look at many videos online and many articles. So if you want, I invite you. Your name is Francis.
Francis.
Francis. Yes. You are absolutely invited to have a look at the website. I posted the link earlier on to everybody. Go to articles and click on Our Lady, because there are different sections of the articles. So look at Our Lady, and also there is a video free available. You can watch the video on St. Luke and St. Paul and St. Luke in 2 hours, I think, in two parts. Watch that. And also, but that's a different thing, there is a course also on St. Luke if you are interested, and it's all Mary. It's and even an Immaculate Conception. There are videos, some videos on the Immaculate Conception, all coming from St. Luke, not just like a definition that landed from above. It's in the gospel, the Immaculate Conception, but not as we usually do, full of grace, etc. No. It's more than, way more than that. And I think that in a way, I explained it. No, what is the good soil? The good soil is the Immaculate Conception. I mean, she's pure. From where she comes, that's another thing. We can discuss that from Jesus' side on the cross. So please don't hesitate to explore a little bit the videos and the articles if you're interested.
So I think we almost need to raise our hands. Who wants to do a pure in heart invasion in Mary's in the School of Mary to go and listen to your talks, right?
Sorry.
So
there are plenty of things available already online that you can spend hours on different subjects. It's all built to support the growth of spiritual life, but as you see, the understanding of Mary is this way, I would say.
So I think it's a bit late, but
I'm always available anytime. This is all what I do. I don't have other jobs, so I don't even call it a job. Of course, it's a mission, it's a call. So please don't hesitate. If you need anything regarding your spiritual life, I will do my best to serve you by the grace of God. Thank you.